G'day, welcome back to Raymac Lures. We're talking screw eyes. Whichever side of the fence you sit on, some people still do use them, and I don't see a reason why not. But putting them in is usually one of your problems, and I'd like to try and get around one of those by using one of these. It's just your ordinary pan-headed screwdriver with a countersink. You see them around everywhere. The old star drives are taking a bit more of a prominent role these days. So what you're going to need is you're going to need a hacksaw, and you're going to cut your groove in there with your hacksaw. And as you do, I'm just trying to get into a position where you can kind of see them. Take a stroke off this side, then a stroke off that side, stroke off this side, stroke off that side. So keep evening it out. You'll still be probably a little bit narrow, and that should only take like 3 or 4 minutes. So then what you end up with is this, and you need that to be like a reasonably firm fit in there, like, you know, you need it to fit in there not too bad and all the way to the bottom. What you also need is the highest part of the radius. I'll bring that up a bit closer, hopefully that's focusing well enough. You need the biggest part of that radius to be above the taper on this here. Because the reason for that is that we're actually going to use a spring that's around about the same size as this here. So what I've got is, these are 5mm OD. The shank on this is about 4.8. So it's like 0.2 under the size of this, and this only works when this is just a wee bit smaller than the head. You don't want it 1/2 mil smaller, that's too much of a difference. But you know, if you can find anything between sort of 0.5 of a mil smaller than your eye and on the barrel there, then it'll work a treat. So what you do is you cut your eyes off the end of this spring. Now this spring measures about 4.7 on the inside, so again it's a little bit smaller. And then what you do is you screw that, once you cut these 2 eyes off with a pair of side cutters, a pair of Y cutters, you then screw it up over this thread, and you keep screwing it down until it hits on that shoulder. And then what happens is you can jump on your bench grinder or your belt sander or whatever it is, and just grind this head down till it gets back to that shoulder, still leaving a little bit of shoulder so the spring doesn't slide off the end. And I'll move that up there. It doesn't have to be terribly accurate or anything. So now what you end up with is a screw with a slot in it, and as I said, you need this slot deep enough that the highest part of that radius sticks out. And once that spring goes on there, and it being smaller, you can see the spring flexing out to hang on to the screw. And then what you can do is you can stick that into your power drill, and it'll hold it in there. Ooh, come here, you little beggar. And that spring will collapse around the eyelet and hold it in there, so that when you come time to screw something, and quick, I need something to screw. There we go. When it comes time to screw something, away you go. It's as easy as that. So yeah, and what you do is when you pop it into your drill, slide the spring all the way up to the jaws of the chuck, so that when you're backing them out, it doesn't spin and screw it back over the top. But that's just that spring is only there to hold it in position while you're doing it, while you're is to hold it central so that it doesn't fall over. As I said, you need like about no more than 0.5 and the difference between, you need it less than the diameter of the head, so those heads are 5 mil, so you don't really want to shank any smaller than 4.5 mil. You don't want to shank smaller than 4.5 mil, and you don't want to spring any smaller than 4.5 mil. Otherwise it gets a bit hard to push the spring in. So if that, it doesn't cost hardly anything.